It's common knowledge at this point that Stadia stumbled quite a bit at launch, given that it didn't have the library of games required to support a platform. The streaming technology itself, it's hit or miss. The features that make Stadia unique are lacking. The business model is pretty awful right now. And all of that's led to low sales that makes the player base and user base of Stadia low as well, and that affects the ability for players to enjoy online games that thrive off of a healthy player base, so on and so forth. All of these issues kind of compound each other. And so it's led to the platform not getting that much traction. A lot of people really didn't think Stadia is worth it. And even months after launch, a lot of people aren't really convinced that Stadia is the future of gaming. And so now we're seeing Stadia going out of their way to actually give their Stadia subscriptions away in order to bolster the player base, because right now charging $130 for a Founders Edition is just not working out for them. Here's an article from The Verge citing how Google now giving away 3 months of Stadia access to Chromecast owners. Further details were provided in the body of this article that reads, a new promotion starting this month that offers 3 months of its Stadia Pro subscription to owners of Chromecast Ultra devices. It's not required that you buy a new device. Rather, you just have to opt to receive promotional emails from Google, and the company is sending out the offer to known Chromecast Ultra owning customers. Yeah, this is definitely not something a company would do if their subscription service were a success. They would certainly not be giving those out for free. So the fact that this is happening is pretty telling of how desperate Google and Stadia are right now to really kick things up a notch for the number of people who engage with the platform currently, which I'm assuming isn't many. I'm assuming that the novelty has really kind of worn off. Like, even starting out, Stadia didn't have that big of a user base, but now with the dust settling, and with Stadia just being so slow in its progress and in its addition of compelling titles, there's just no reason to really go back to it, except for, the most hardcore of enthusiasts of Stadia. And then the article added, Google confirmed to The Verge that this is the first promotion of its kind for Stadia, and it works like the platform's Buddy Pass system. And this was also something that was noted by Twitter user Dustin, who tweeted, Google is sending out 3-month passes for Stadia Pro in their latest Chromecast marketing emails. And clicking on this tweet, you can read right here, quote, get 3 months of Stadia Pro on us. Love streaming movies and music? Now start streaming games. Here's a Stadia Pro pass to play free AAA games with Stadia. Redeem your code to get started. So if you own a Chromecast Ultra but never took interest in Stadia, you might see a very similar email be sent out to you. And, I suppose if it's free and you already have a Chromecast Ultra, there's no reason to not try it. Although, how many people will actually care enough to try it out? And even after they try it out, how many will stick with it remains to be seen. Keep in mind that the way Stadia works is that even when you do have the Pro subscription and pay $10 a month, you're not really getting a library of games. You do get a couple of free games as part of the Stadia Pro program, but when it comes to individual games, most of them you'll just have to purchase outright. And I'm wondering how many people will, redeem this 3 months Stadia Pro subscription and then go ahead and start buying games for full price. But yeah, this is their strategy now. Give away Stadia subscriptions, give away Stadia Pro, even for those who have not ordered Founders Edition like I and many others have, and see how that works out. And then beyond that, they've actually done other promotions in the past where they're giving away Stadia with the purchase of something else. So like in this case right here, this is an article from January 21st where Google, it was reported by The Verge that Google is giving free $130 Stadia gaming kits to new Verizon Fios subscribers. So anyone who signs up for that specific Verizon internet service will just get the $130 Stadia kit for free, which includes the controller, the Founders Edition Pro subscription, and a Buddy Pass, and all the elements that come with that. Very unusual for a console to start doing handouts like this, or for a platform to start doing handouts like this. What this shows is that there's not a lot of demand and a whole lot of supply. And the next up here is an article from December 16th, 2019. I'm assuming this was when Google began to see that Stadia wasn't gaining the traction that they had hoped for, and that's why Google Stadia founders can now give away another 3-month free trial to a friend. Everyone who purchased the Founders Edition essentially got an additional Buddy Pass to give out to other people, and this was also likely an attempt by Google to infuse the Stadia ecosystem with new players, given that it really undersold by a significant margin. And I talked before about how the Stadia app, which you need in order to sort of boot Stadia and get it started and set Stadia up. It was reported by news outlet pocketgamer.biz that from November 5th, 2019 to January 13th, 2020, the app had a grand total of 550,000 installs. So that is probably the maximum number of people who bought Stadia and who engaged with the platform. Keep in mind that this 550,000 installs also represents people who got Stadia from a Buddy Pass. So they didn't actually pay for the Founders Edition. They just got access to Stadia from a friend. And then that second Buddy Pass will mean that a big portion of these installs is strictly just Buddy Pass users, and then the Verizon Files promotion. I would surmise that the number of Founders Edition sales is actually somewhere close to maybe half this figure. So maybe, 225, 250,000, maybe half to 2/3 of the total installs of the app is what I would surmise. And this is further corroborated by the Google Play Store, where if you look up the Stadia app, you will see that it shows that the number of installs currently stands at 500,000 plus. And it has been some time since this article was published. It's been close to 2 months, so that number has probably gone up, but not by a significant margin, I presume. It doesn't seem like Stadia has reached the 1 million mark yet, which is pretty bad, with other major platform releases from Nintendo and PlayStation and Microsoft. With Xbox, they would sell millions by now. So to see that Stadia, even months after launch, still stands at, less than 1 million users who are engaging with it. And as far as sales go, I'm assuming it's less than 500,000 when it comes to Founders Edition sales, due to the fact that a lot of people who are playing Stadia are likely Buddy Pass users. So when you take all of that into account, you really begin to see a grim picture for what a rough launch it's been for Stadia and how little attention or interest it's garnered in its current state. Even more indicative of this is the fact that Destiny 2, which is a game that's free for pro subscribers, when the Stadia platform launched, the player base was at like 19,400, which certainly isn't a lot of players and doesn't compare to the numbers you're seeing on PlayStation 4, PC, and Xbox. But then we also learned that months later, on January 2020, I believe this article is from, it reads right here, January 3rd, 2020, those numbers dipped from 19,400 to 8,000. So by over half, that's a much higher percentage drop than what PC, PS4, and Xbox saw within the same time period, suggesting that, PC, Xbox, and PlayStation, they're stable as far as player base goes, where Stadia, that player base, played Stadia's version for a bit, and then they lost interest because either the streaming technology wasn't there, and then the input lag and the stutters caused them to realize that this just wasn't the best way to play Destiny, or they saw that there's just not a lot of players in Destiny 2 for Stadia, given the low user base, and so the world feels super empty, whereas on other consoles and platforms, Destiny 2 feels like a thriving online world. So there's just so many reasons for people to dismiss Stadia currently, and that lack of interest is precisely why Google is likely, giving away 3 months of Stadia access to Chromecast owners and just trying to get this out there because they're clearly not selling. And making matters worse for Stadia is the fact that a lot of developers, indies in particular, have expressed their lack of interest when it comes to putting their games on Stadia because it's just not financially viable. Google is not offering them anything compelling, and Stadia as a platform isn't thriving enough for their games to be able to sell well on Stadia if they were to put them on the platform. And with developers well aware of Google's history of killing off products or services when the going gets tough, they're wondering, is it even worth putting our games on Stadia? How can we be sure that Stadia has long legs given Google's history with past products and services So developers being very wary about putting their games on Stadia creates the perception that Stadia is not going to see a consistent release of compelling titles. It'll be interesting to see what happens when they make the free version of Stadia available and see how many people actually use that, end up buying individual games at full price for access to servers. As of right now, Stadia just has a very niche audience base. Only very specific people would want to give this a try, and even then, they might have trouble with the technology itself. Yeah, this is pretty sad, and I'm wondering whether Stadia will be able to recover from this in the coming months and years. Now, we are seeing that Stadia is rolling in features over time, however slowly. So we saw that Stadia is now available for more Android devices, whereas before, on mobile, Stadia was confined to Pixel devices. Now, Samsung devices and gaming phones like Razer and Asus can play Stadia, and then there are a couple games that have been added throughout the past month or so. Nothing major, nothing that people haven't played before, anything that's going to blow their minds, really. And perhaps the biggest move that Google made recently is essentially to bring in the former head of Santa Monica Studios, the studio that created the latest God of War, into Stadia to lead one of their in-house game development teams. So this is an article by The Verge. The headline reads, Google poaches God of War studio head to run new Stadia game team. The new Playa Vista office will be run by Shannon Studstill from Sony Santa Monica Studio. And here is Google's announcement on that front. The body of this post reads, and this is from Jade Raymond, by the way, VP and head of Stadia Games and Entertainment. She said, Stadia Games and Entertainment is setting out to change the way we play, enjoy, and create video games. With Stadia, the creative possibilities are limitless, but we can't build those experiences without a talented team of game designers, artists, and storytellers. We started that journey with the opening of Stadia's first original game studio in Montreal late last year. Today, we're adding a new Stadia Games and Entertainment studio in Playa Vista, California, which will be led by an industry veteran, Shannon Studstill. The new Playa Vista studio will focus on delivering exclusive games using new gameplay mechanics, creative ways to play together, and unique interaction models that we're just starting to explore. While we're not ready to share specific game plans yet, rest assured we are listening to what gamers want and adding our own Stadia twist to create new IP and experiences. So yeah, that's a pretty bold move on Stadia's part. They are starting to build the infrastructure of the Stadia platform and ecosystem and the developers that will bolster its library. But I'm wondering, is this too late right now for them to just now be bringing in someone to lead this new studio? How far along are they when it comes to game development of Stadia exclusives? How truly, enticing and revolutionary will they be? Will they be so mind-blowing in the way they utilize Stadia's capabilities that those exclusive games will tangibly be able to draw people into their platform? Or will people reject those games because Stadia currently has too many flaws and the business model of having to purchase those games at full price on top of the monthly fee for 4K 60 FPS and all of these expenses, despite the fact that Stadia has too many drawbacks right now to be the ideal way to play games? I'm wondering if all of that will end up pushing people away from Stadia, just kind of turning them off from it, and whether people actually even want games that only are playable on Stadia. I guess we'll find out in due time, but for now, Stadia definitely does need games, but it seems as though the big ones that are unique to Stadia, they're a long ways off if this is any indication that they're only now bringing in a studio head. Though there is the Montreal studio here, and this was announced back on October 24th, 2019, so, they've had a couple months. Maybe there is something major in the works at Stadia that we'll see announced either this year or next. But Stadia is running out of time right now, especially with other platforms like GeForce Now and xCloud and others encroaching and possibly offering a better business model. There's just a lot that Stadia has to do. They are facing an uphill battle. They're really behind right now because of that rough launch. And, this is indication right here, the fact that they're giving away pro subscriptions, that things are more dire than Google anticipated. But you never know. You never know what kind of comeback this might be able to make. But I truly do believe that with the current business model, Stadia will never be able to thrive. I think other cloud gaming platforms like xCloud are better poised and are what are drawing my attention to the potential of cloud gaming being integrated as not a competitor to local hardware gaming, but a companion to it. That's what Xbox is doing, and I think they've got the right idea. Where Stadia, I don't know. I'm still skeptical. Anyway, that's one man's take on this whole situation and the current state of Stadia. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on Google giving away 3 months of Stadia access to Chromecast owners out of the blue like this. And also let me know what you think about Stadia establishing this new studio and bringing in the now former head of Santa Monica Studio. Drop a comment below, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.